Welcome everyone to Fantasy Watch, where you learn which players to buy, sell, or hold. I'm your host, Berto, aka The Real Late Bloomer. As always, our objective is to buy low, sell high, and make sure you're not getting rid of players you should be holding on to.
Sports Live, where we rap sports analysis.
First up is our buy list, and the first player on this list is Robert Woods. Robert Woods was a player that I previously had on this list, but he was ranked a lot lower when I had him on this list than he is now. Actually, I didn't even realize he's the number 9th ranked wide receiver in PPR right now, and I still think he gets overlooked. Now, he's only had one game under 10 points, so talk about consistency, and that was week 1. And what I like about Robert Woods is he's matchup proof because Cooks demand so much attention. The same with Gurley. A lot of times Robert Woods will be matched up against a team's second, third corner. I expect him to be playing more out of the slot now too. That Cooper Kupp is injured. So I definitely like Robert Woods. Now I like him more for teams that have a winning record, that are virtually guaranteed to be in the playoffs, because he does have a bye week coming up. But if you could buy low, if you can afford that bye week, then I would definitely go after Robert Woods. Next up is Alex Collins. Now there's no running back with a better schedule right now than Alex Collins, beginning this week with the Cincinnati Bengals. He also has Oakland, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, all the bad run defenses. And I do expect Baltimore's defense to be a lot better the second half. They were dealing with some injuries, so they're going to be playing with the lead, which means even more Alex Collins. Obviously, the fumble issues, that's a concern, but I think he'll get over that. And at the end of the day, I like going with the most talented players on my team. So I rather, when the game's on the line, rely on those talented players, which Alex Collins definitely is. I know Ty Montgomery is lingering back there, but he'll be more of a game script running back if they're in higher scoring games. And they do like to throw a lot to the running back, but for their closer, for those cold weather games, Baltimore's going to want to play good defense and run the football, and for that reason, buy low on Alex Collins. The last person on our buy list is another talented running back, and that's Philip Lindsay. Now, some owners might be panicking because Royce Freeman is coming back, but remember, Philip Lindsay was doing his thing even when Freeman was in the mix, so that shouldn't be a concern. He's super talented, he could catch the football, he's explosive, they don't have a lot of weapons, and not only that, his schedule is really nice down the stretch, starting this week against the Chargers, who just lost their best defensive stopper, Denzel Perryman. For that reason, guys, go ahead and buy low on Philip Lindsay. Now for our sell list. And the first person on this list, you guys are going to think I'm crazy, is the number 1 receiver in PPR, TYREEK Hill. Now, the reason I'm saying to sell Hill is not because I don't like him or he's not talented. It's because next week already he has a bye week, so you won't be able to use him. Plus, he's got 2 tough games in the playoffs against the Chargers, which probably means a Casey Hayward shadow, and then he's got to go up against that Baltimore secondary as well. So if you could get a player like another consistent receiver and a running back and fill some holes, remember, I like selling guys at their highest potential value, and what's higher than number 1 right now? So for that reason, I think you guys should sell on TYREEK Hill. Now the next person on our sell list is another super talented wide receiver, maybe the most talented wide receiver in all of football, and that's Odell Beckham Jr. Now you might be, again, thinking I'm crazy for saying this, but it's quite simple. It's all about Eli Manning. And when it comes to the playoffs, I want to be able to have players in there that I can trust, and I trust OBJ, I don't trust Eli Manning. Even though OBJ has been super consistent this year, has a lot to do with Pat Sherman moving him all around, but his schedule is pretty tough. He's going to go through a stretch where he has to play the Bears, the Redskins, and the Titans. No walk in the park. And that's during the playoff time. And that's not even mentioning his history of injuries. The Giants are not going to have anything to play for. So all of those for me are red flags. I'd rather someone else take that risk, especially coming off a really nice game against the Niners. You could get awesome value for OBJ right now, and that's the reason I would sell high on Odell Beckham Jr. The last person on our sell list is someone who was previously on our sell list, and that's James White. The reason I had him on our sell list before is because the Patriots, you can never predict what they're going to do with their running backs, and now it's still kind of the same issue. He got lucky that Sony Michel got out, and they were playing a lot of teams where, you know, it's kind of a shootout. But that's all going to change now. I looked at their schedule, and it's going to be against the Jets, the Bills, the Dolphins, a lot of teams that don't have particularly good offenses to keep up with the Patriots. So that's going to be more of a Sony Michel type of game than a James White. I'm hearing Rex Burkhead could be back in a couple of weeks. So I think now is as good a time as ever to sell on James White. Now for a hold list. And the first player on this list is none other than MVP favorite Pat Mahomes. Now, it should be pretty obvious if you have Mahomes, you want to keep him, but some people might be thinking of selling him because he has a bye week coming up. But the thing about Mahomes is he's elite. It's hard to find elite players. So when you have him, when you have the Kamaras, the Gurleys, the Zekes, especially at the quarterback position, there's really, I think, only 3 or 4. Talking about Wentz, Andrew Luck, Pat Mahomes, really. Rodgers hasn't been that guy this year. Watson has a little bit of that, but I think it has to do with matchup. Same with Drew Brees. But Pat Mahomes, he's matchup proof in that offense. He's definitely somebody you don't want to trade unless you're getting another elite player in return. Next player on our hold list is Joe Mixon. Now, Joe Mixon didn't have the best game this past week, but that had a lot to do with the matchup. The New Orleans Saints have been pretty much the best defense against the run this year. But Joe Mixon, after this weekend, he's going to have another tough schedule at Baltimore. But afterwards, he has an amazing schedule, kind of similar to Alex Collins. He's got the Oaklands, he's got the Clevelands, so he should really do some damage, especially now A.J. Green is still going to be out a couple of weeks. So they're going to have to rely on him, not only in the run game, but the pass game as well. So for that reason, if you got Joe Mixon, sit tight, guys. The last person on our hold list is O.J. Howard. Now, O.J. Howard has been amazing this year, with the exception of this past weekend, and that whole offense was in disarray. Plus, anyway, it was a tough matchup. Redskins are one of the best against the tight end position. But starting this week, faces the Giants. And then the rest of the schedule is pretty much a cakewalk with the exception of New Orleans, which even then, that's somebody you could throw, that's a team you could throw on. But he's got Carolina, he's got Baltimore and Dallas in the playoffs, which are 2 teams that are suspect against the tight end position. So you combine talent, he's probably the best athlete at the position. Then you combine that with a team that's going to be playing from behind and a soft schedule. And you definitely, if you're not buying O.J. Howard, you got to hold on to him. Well, that concludes this segment of Fantasy Watch. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for all the latest fantasy updates, and comment down below which players you think you should buy, sell, or hold, or any fantasy related questions for that matter. And one last thing, guys, be sure to follow me on social media at SportsLibs. Until next time, I'm out.